श्री स्वामी समर्थ महाराज ऑफ अक्कलकोट। श्री स्वामी समर्थ महाराज की जय। श्री गुरुदेव दत्त। श्री गणेशाय नमः। श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Chapter 3 Mysterious Origin of Sri Swami Samartha. Sri Swami Samartha is considered as the fourth incarnation of Sri Dattatreya. The popular and accepted belief is that he is the reincarnation of Sri Narsimha Saraswati. We have seen that Sri Narsimha Saraswati left Kangapur once for all and went to Kardalivan near Sri Shaila Mallikarjun for penance. After some years, he moved to the Himalayas. There he is said to have entered into Samadhi. Devotees believe that he continued in that state for more than 300 years. A huge anthill grew around the corporeal body of Sri Narsimha Saraswati, and no one knew what happened to him afterwards. Many years later, a woodcutter's axe accidentally fell on some bushes about the anthill. The woodcutter was aghast to find the axe's blade stained with blood. Curiosity led him to demolish the anthill to find out who or what was in it that had been hurt by his axe. To his great surprise, he found a yogi absorbed in penance. Slowly the yogi opened his eyes and rose from his samadhi and looked at the woodcutter, who was trembling with fear and remorse. But to his great surprise, the yogi, beaming with love, spoke gently. "Well, my child, do not be sorry for what has happened. The time has come for me to reappear in the world and to resume my spiritual mission. This is God's will." The yogi who emerged from the anthill was not Narsimha Saraswati, but his reincarnation, Sri Swami Samarth. The wound caused by the axe had left a scar on the thigh, which was seen as a permanent mark by many close attendants. The ancient history of Bharat is rich with instances of such yogis engaged in tapa in the caves of the Himalayas for countless years. To a Hindu, this is not a strange and uncommon instance. There is nothing beyond the reach of a yogi, although it may be beyond the comprehension of mortals with limited human intellect. One Yogi Raj, Sri Jyoti Prakash Ashram Ji, actually went into the interior parts of the Himalayas in quest of such yogis. He came across quite a few of them who were ageless. By transmission and infusion of powers, yogis prepare a band of their disciples who can similarly remain in a state of samadhi for many years. The great Swami Yoganand Paramhans, in his autobiography of a yogi, has described similar instances. Sri Swami Samartha, after emerging out of the anthill, set out on his sojourn about 1758 AD, first in different parts of the interior Himalayas before moving into the plains. The biographers also do not throw much light on the earlier part of his life. One great disciple, Sri Swami Sut, however, recorded that Swami Samartha first appeared as an 8-year-old boy like Lord Krishna in Chellikheda in central India. But there were no details about his birthplace, his name, his parentage or whereabouts. Who can trace the birth of the birthless? Sri Swami Samartha was the reincarnation of Sri Narsimha Saraswati, the third Datta avatar. He was not born of human parents. In his later life too, he never gave any information about his name, his age, etc. He was an Avdut, a Mahayogi, a mystic, possessing great spiritual powers. An Avdut means one who has attained the zenith of spiritual attainment. Avduts are embodiments of wisdom, Jnanamurtis. They feel the oneness and kinship with all the creation and have overflowing love for all. Their mere presence is sanctifying. Their silence is a sermon. Their mere glance is a blessing. Their touch can be a spiritual change and transformation. The Bhagavad Gita extols and glorifies them in most eloquent terms. Sri Swami Samartha, as an incarnation of Lord Dattatreya, had inherited all such exalted and divine qualities. As to Sri Swami Samartha, who could adequately describe his glorious appearance? All speech is powerless, and human faculties fail in such an attempt. At the most, one may be able to describe his physical features and give a superficial account. A mortal eyes can seldom hope to reach and glance his inner glory. For the feeble and limited human vision and intellect, it can only be baffling. His extraordinary behavior, however, and his queer ways and strange manners, his ways of speech and talk, his actions, sometimes gave the impression of an unsound mind. But these are generally the characteristics of an Avadhut. Their vision soars on a transcendental plane, whereas ours is glued to the earthly, material plane. Often people would also take him to be a person of an unhinged mind, as his manners, his talk, and his actions were strange. To make out the right meaning from his action and talk was not easy. Those who were his close disciples tried to read some meaning into his cryptic talk and gestures, but it was after all a guess. Swami Samartha never explained what he meant. He never cared for it. Even the spiritually advanced disciples could hardly make out much of what he said. Sri Swami Samartha appeared like the glorious sun. One of his disciples, Madhav Shastri, has described him in poetic terms. Birthless and emerging from nowhere, glorious like the sun, extolled by gods, beautiful body with glittering eyes, full of compassion, face like the full moon, with long arms reaching below the knees, with loin cloth around his waist, with thighs soft like the plantain trunk, with tender lotus feet. Sri Swami Samartha's face always radiated bliss, as beatitude is the state and distinguishing mark of a realized soul. There was a halo of lustre around his face. This aura was an indication of divine splendor. He looked young even though his first appearance was in an advanced age of his life. His looks were always bright and fresh. There were no wrinkles anywhere. He was tall, more than 6 feet in height. He was an Ajanubahu. His shoulders were broad. He was handsome and wheat-colored in complexion. His ears were big. Their lobes were so thin that they shook with the movements of his body or even of the wind. Like that of Lord Gajanana, his belly was large. His forehead was broad, eyebrows grey. His eyes used to look as if they were probing one's innermost soul. The minds of all were an open book to him. There was omniscience in those lustrous eyes. His whole figure was august, majestic, and awe-inspiring. While walking, his stride was so big and fast that few could keep pace with him. He looked like a Puran Purush, an ancient Rishi or a Mahamuni. There was always a tilak on his forehead and his body was besmeared with sandal paste. He used to wear only a cowpin, that is codpiece. He had a fine set of teeth. He wore tulsi and rudraksha malas and earrings inset with gems. He was always seen muttering mystic mantras or something which others could not understand. Otherwise, he spoke very little. Often, he would even abuse the visitors, but those abuses were blessings in fact. People of all religions, Hindus, Mohammedans, Parsis and Christians, used to be attracted to him. Likewise, he used to visit mosques and dargahs just as he used to visit mutts and temples. With this we complete part 1 of chapter 3. Shri Swami Rajarpanamastu Shubham Bhavatu Shri Rastu.